Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins have officially placed guard James Daniels on injured reserve, delivering a significant blow to their offensive line just as the season begins to heat up. The news came in an official announcement from the team, confirming what fans feared after Daniels suffered a pectoral injury in Week 1. Initially, reports indicated that Daniels would be sidelined for 3 to 4 weeks, but by moving him to injured reserve, the Dolphins have ensured that he will miss at least 4 games before he can be activated again. This move is a strategic decision, as the IR designation allows the team to open up a roster spot while still retaining the option to bring back one of their key offensive linemen once he recovers. For Dolphins fans, this is a mixed bag of disappointment and cautious optimism. Disappointment because losing a player of Daniels' caliber early in the season is always difficult, but optimism because the team is planning for a return rather than a prolonged absence. James Daniels, now 27 years old, has had an impressive journey in the NFL. Drafted in the second round of the 2018 NFL Draft by the Chicago Bears, Daniels entered the league with high expectations. He played out the final year of his rookie deal, a 4-year contract worth $6.9 million, of which $3,930,576 was guaranteed. During his time in Chicago, Daniels quickly developed a reputation for his versatility and technical skill on the interior line, capable of handling both the guard positions with a combination of strength and intelligence. Despite the high-pressure environment of the NFL, Daniels carved out a steady and reliable presence on the Bears roster, earning respect from coaches and teammates alike for his work ethic and football IQ. His early career set the foundation for a path that would eventually lead him to free agency, where his talents were in high demand. In 2022, Daniels faced a critical juncture in his career as he was set to become an unrestricted free agent. Rather than waiting for the market to dictate his value, he signed a 3-year, $26 million contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a move that highlighted both his proven capabilities and the high regard in which he was held league-wide. Over the course of his tenure with the Steelers, Daniels demonstrated his elite-level ability, particularly in the 2024 season. That year, he appeared in 4 games, starting all 4 at guard, and earned a remarkable recognition from Pro Football Focus, which rated him as the #1 guard among 64 qualifying players. This acknowledgement reflected not only his physical talent, but also his understanding of offensive schemes, his ability to read defenses, and his consistency in executing assignments under pressure. His performance in Pittsburgh solidified him as one of the premier guards in the NFL, and his next contract would reflect that status. Following the conclusion of his contract with the Steelers, Daniels entered free agency once again in the 2025 offseason, and the Miami Dolphins moved decisively to secure his services. The Dolphins signed him to a 3-year, $24 million contract, signaling a commitment to bolstering their offensive line with proven talent. The expectation was that Daniels would immediately strengthen the Dolphins' interior, providing stability and experience to a unit that is critical for both the running game and pass protection. For Miami, acquiring a guard of Daniels' caliber was a statement of intent, a signal that they were serious about competing at the highest level and addressing any potential vulnerabilities on the offensive front. Unfortunately, injuries are an unavoidable reality in professional football, and the Week 1 setback has temporarily derailed what was expected to be a seamless integration of Daniels into the Dolphins lineup. The impact of Daniels' injury extends beyond just the offensive line. In today's NFL, the guard position is crucial not only for protecting the quarterback, but also for creating running lanes and maintaining the rhythm of the offense. The Dolphins, who are balancing the development of young talent with the demands of a competitive schedule, will now have to adjust their line combinations and game plans to compensate for the absence of a player who has proven capable of operating at the highest level. While the team's depth chart includes capable backups, the chemistry, timing, and experience that Daniels brings to the table cannot be easily replicated. Coaches and analysts alike recognize that a single injury on the offensive line can have a ripple effect across an entire offense, influencing both the passing and running game, and placing additional pressure on quarterbacks and skill position players to perform in less than ideal circumstances. Despite the setback, there is reason for measured optimism. The Dolphins' medical and training staff are known for their meticulous approach to player recovery, and Daniels' injury, while significant, is not considered career-threatening. A structured rehabilitation plan, combined with the inherent resilience and professionalism that Daniels has demonstrated throughout his career, suggests that he will return to the field fully prepared to contribute at the level expected of a top-tier guard. For fans, this means that while the next month or so may require adjustments, there remains the promise of his presence later in the season, a reassuring thought given his ability to influence both individual plays and overall offensive cohesion. Looking at the broader picture, Daniels' journey through the NFL serves as a compelling narrative of perseverance, adaptability, and growth. From a second-round pick with the Bears to an elite-rated guard with the Steelers and now a key acquisition for the Dolphins, Daniels exemplifies the trajectory of a player who has consistently maximized his opportunities. Each step of his career, from rookie contracts to multi-million-dollar free agency deals, reflects not only his skill but also the trust placed in him by multiple organizations. His current situation, while unfortunate, is merely another chapter in a story that has been defined by hard work, consistent performance, and an ability to rise to challenges, qualities that fans, teammates, and analysts alike recognize and respect. The Dolphins' coaching staff will now face the task of integrating other players into the lineup during Daniels' absence. This is where the narrative takes on additional layers, as football is as much about strategy and adaptation as it is about raw talent. Young players or backups stepping into Daniels' role will have the opportunity to showcase their capabilities, potentially altering future roster decisions and providing unexpected advantages in the form of fresh energy or new dynamics on the field. At the same time, the team's veteran leadership and offensive schemes must compensate for the temporary loss of one of their most skilled linemen, highlighting the delicate balance that coaches must maintain between preparation, in-game adjustments, and long-term player development. Injuries such as Daniels' pectoral issue are reminders of the unpredictable nature of the NFL and the thin margin between success and adversity. Yet they also provide opportunities for teams to demonstrate resilience, adaptability, and depth. The Dolphins, by placing Daniels on injured reserve, are following a protocol designed to maximize both his recovery and the team's ability to compete effectively. Fans will be watching closely, game by game, to see how the offensive line adjusts and whether the unit can maintain cohesion without one of its anchors. Meanwhile, Daniels himself will focus on rehabilitation, working diligently to ensure that when he returns, he can perform at the elite level that has defined his career to date. Ultimately, the news of James Daniels being placed on injured reserve is a significant development for the Dolphins, but it is far from a catastrophic one. His track record, talent, and professional approach suggest that he will return stronger and ready to contribute. For Miami, the short-term challenge of covering his absence is balanced by the long-term potential of reintegrating a top-rated guard into their lineup. For fans and analysts, it is a story that combines the realities of injury with the promise of resilience, strategy, and eventual redemption. A story that will unfold over the coming weeks as Daniels works toward a return and the Dolphins navigate the early stages of their season with both challenges and opportunities ahead. The narrative is still being written, but one thing remains clear. James Daniels remains a pivotal figure for the Dolphins, and his presence, or temporary absence, will continue to shape the team's journey through a season full of high stakes, strategic adjustments, and the relentless pursuit of excellence on the football field. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? It's official, and the buzz is already shaking the NFL landscape. RASUL Douglas has been announced as the newest warrior of the Miami Dolphins secondary, and the news feels like one of those moments where rumor transforms into reality with a heavy thud that echoes across the league. For weeks, whispers floated around about the Dolphins looking to strengthen their defensive backfield, and while there were plenty of names thrown into the mix, from free agents bouncing around to draft prospects that could one day grow into leaders, the reality is that RASUL Douglas brings something different, something far more tangible, and something that instantly elevates Miami's defense into an entirely new tier of credibility. His arrival is not just a transaction, it's a statement, a declaration that the Dolphins are not content with simply being competitive, They're aiming to become feared, and Douglas is the embodiment of that intent. Fans who have followed his career know exactly what kind of energy RASUL brings to the field. He's not just another defensive back rotating through schemes. He's a playmaker with a knack for changing the entire rhythm of a game. The Dolphins' secondary has already been a talking point in recent seasons, with flashes of brilliance but also gaps that made it difficult to sustain dominance against the NFL's most dangerous offenses. Bringing in RASUL feels like patching one of those leaks with steel rather than duct tape. This isn't a short-term fix. This is a reinforcement designed to hold up under pressure, week after week, against quarterbacks who thrive on exposing any weaknesses they can find. Douglas, with his instinctive reads, his ball-hawking tendencies, and his willingness to battle physically on every snap, is exactly the type of warrior Miami needed to fortify its defensive backfield. The timing of the announcement couldn't be more dramatic, because it comes at a moment when the Dolphins are actively shaping their identity for the upcoming season. There's an underlying sense that Miami doesn't want to just be that fun, flashy team known for its offensive fireworks. Yes, they can put points on the board at a pace that few can match, but now, with RASUL stepping into the equation, the defense begins to balance that narrative. Imagine the Dolphins' fast-paced offense forcing opponents into desperate passing situations, and then imagine Douglas lurking, waiting, ready to snatch momentum away with a perfectly timed interception or a lockdown coverage that forces a punt. That's the balance championship teams are built on. That's what Miami is chasing, and this move screams ambition in the loudest way possible. For RASUL Douglas himself, this feels like a destiny-shifting opportunity. He's had his share of defining moments throughout his career, moments where he was counted out, moments where he had to prove that he belonged at the top level of the game, and moments where he silenced critics with highlight reel plays. Coming to Miami, he finds himself stepping into a defense that is hungry, aggressive, and eager to write its own story in bold letters. The Dolphins fan base is already buzzing with excitement, not just because they recognize his name, but because they know the attitude he brings. He's gritty, he's fearless, and he's the type of player who embraces the idea of being called a warrior. When you think about Miami's culture and the energy of its stadium on a big game day, RASUL feels like a perfect fit, almost like he was destined to wear aqua and orange. Of course, every big signing like this also sparks conversations about what it means in the larger chessboard of the league. For the AFC, this is yet another curveball thrown into a conference that already feels overloaded with talent. Quarterbacks who were circling Dolphins games on the schedule as potential shootouts may now be rethinking their strategies, knowing that there's another set of eyes and hands waiting to disrupt their passing lanes. Douglas doesn't just play coverage, he plays mind games with quarterbacks, baiting them into throws that look safe until suddenly they aren't. That kind of presence reshapes how offensive coordinators draw up plays, and when you combine him with the rest of Miami's defensive personnel, the picture becomes one of a unit that could turn into one of the most suffocating in the NFL if everything clicks the way it should. But beyond the X's and O's, what makes this story so fascinating is the aura of excitement and unpredictability that hovers around it. This isn't just a transaction buried deep in the ticker of off-season moves. It's a headline that carries weight because it represents the Dolphins doubling down on their belief that they are close, that they are on the cusp of something greater. RASUL Douglas doesn't come in as a quiet addition. He comes in as a name fans will chant, as a player whose highlights will circulate on social media, as a personality that could help define the heartbeat of Miami's defense. These are the kinds of moves that alter locker room dynamics, bringing fresh energy, new swagger, and a sense of belief that spreads beyond just the players. It reaches the fans, the city, and eventually the league itself, forcing everyone to pay attention. The story also has a touch of redemption woven into it, because Douglas' journey has never been about straight lines or easy climbs. He's battled through ups and downs, found ways to reinvent himself, and proven his resilience on multiple stages. Now, he lands in Miami with an opportunity to not only cement his legacy, but to be part of a team that is actively trying to carve out its own era. Every player dreams of joining a roster that feels like it's building towards something historic, and that's exactly the vibe around the Dolphins right now. By stepping into this environment, RASUL isn't just joining a team, he's stepping into a movement, and if he thrives, His name will be remembered as one of the pivotal pieces that helped Miami rise to prominence in this era. There's also a cultural layer to consider, because Miami has always been a city that thrives on energy, style, and attitude, and RASUL Douglas fits that mold perfectly. He plays with flair, but it's not empty showmanship. It's confidence backed by results. He's the type of player who can electrify the stadium with one big play, and in a city where entertainment and performance are woven into everyday life, that matters more than people might realize. The Dolphins don't just want to win. They want to win with personality, with swagger, with a brand that reflects the city they represent. RASUL brings that combination of grit and style, and that makes his signing resonate on a deeper level than just numbers and stats. Now, as the dust settles on the announcement, the speculation naturally shifts toward what's next. How will Douglas integrate into the Dolphins' schemes? How quickly can he build chemistry with his new teammates? Will this move finally be the missing piece that allows Miami to stand toe-to-toe with the heavyweights of the AFC, not just in offensive fireworks, but in defensive battles? These questions will fuel countless discussions in the coming weeks, as training camps open, as practices intensify, and as the first preseason snaps provide a glimpse of what's to come. But for now, the energy is undeniable. The Dolphins have made a statement. RASUL Douglas has found his new home, and the NFL world is watching with a mix of curiosity, respect, and maybe a little bit of fear. In the end, the official announcement of RASUL Douglas as the new warrior of the Dolphins secondary feels like more than just a roster update. It feels like a turning point. It's the type of move that fans remember, that analysts dissect, and that opponents dread. Miami has planted its flag and declared its intentions loud and clear. With Douglas in the fold, the Dolphins aren't just chasing relevance. They're chasing greatness, and they've armed themselves with a warrior who knows how to fight for it. The season ahead now carries an added layer of anticipation, and one thing is certain. When RASUL Douglas takes the field in aqua and orange, the entire league will be paying attention. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.